Have you ever frozen when someone asked, "So, how was your weekend?" You want to answer, but suddenly every English verb disappears from your brain.
Oh, yes, that happens to a lot of learners. You know what you did, but the words just don't come out.
Today, we're going to fix that. We'll show you an easy way to talk about your weekend without stress.
By the end of this episode, you'll have a short story you can use every Monday morning, something you can change a little each time, but the pattern stays the same.
Exactly. Once you know the pattern, that question becomes one of the easiest parts of conversation.
So let's get started.
The goal today is simple. You'll learn to describe what you did on Saturday and Sunday and how you felt about it.
5 sentences can tell the whole story. 3 about Saturday, 2 about Sunday, and a friendly question at the end.
That's all you need for natural small talk.
All right, imagine this. It's Monday morning and a coworker says, "Hey, how was your weekend?" What do you say?
Here's my example. It was relaxing. On Saturday, I cooked lunch at home and ate with my family. In the afternoon, I watched a movie and drank coffee on the sofa. In the evening, I called my sister and we laughed about old stories. On Sunday, the weather was sunny, so we went to the park. It was peaceful.
I love that. You can hear the rhythm, feeling Saturday, evening, Sunday, feeling again. Simple and smooth.
Right. And you don't need complicated words. You just describe real life.
Let me share mine. My weekend was busy but fun. On Saturday, I met some friends downtown and tried a new cafe. In the afternoon, we walked around the city and looked at street art. In the evening, I watched a football match on TV. On Sunday, the weather was rainy, so I stayed home and read a book. It was nice to rest.
That's perfect. Real, clear, and full of past tense verbs.
You know what helps a lot? Keeping everything in the past. Don't switch halfway. If you start with was and went, stay there.
Yes, that's the biggest mistake we hear. People start with I go and then suddenly say I watched. It confuses the listener.
Exactly. Just keep all verbs in the past. Went, had, cooked, stayed, watched, read, spelled the same but pronounced read.
Now, what if your weekend was quiet or maybe even boring? You can still make it sound friendly.
Totally. You don't need a big adventure. You can say, "It was quiet. On Saturday, I cleaned my room and listened to music. In the evening, I read a new book. On Sunday, the weather was warm, so I watered my plants and relaxed. It was peaceful."
That sounds natural and polite, even if nothing special happened.
Let's try another one. Suppose you had a family weekend.
It was cozy. On Saturday, I cleaned the house in the morning and baked cookies with my kids in the afternoon. In the evening, we watched an animated movie. On Sunday, the weather was cloudy, so we played board games. It was fun.
I like how you keep a soft ending. Fun, peaceful, relaxing. It leaves a positive feeling.
Exactly. In English small talk, ending positive makes the conversation friendly.
And if you're more active, you could say, "It was exciting. On Saturday, I ran 5 kilometers and met a friend for lunch. In the evening, I cooked pasta at home. On Sunday, the weather was windy, so I went hiking near the lake. It was amazing."
That one shows energy, but still stays simple.
Now, let's talk about grammar for a moment, but in a way that makes sense for listening. When we describe the weekend, almost every verb goes into the past tense.
For regular verbs, you just add ed. So watch becomes watched. Clean becomes cleaned. Cook becomes cooked.
And then there are irregular ones you just memorize as pairs. Go, went, have, had, make, made, read, spelled the same but pronounced read.
The trick is to listen to native speakers and notice those patterns.
And don't worry about sounding perfect. People understand you even if you pause for a second to think.
Something else that helps is connecting ideas with small words. And then, because, so. They make your story flow.
For example, I went to the park and then met my friend. That sounds much smoother than short, broken sentences.
You know, we hear a few mistakes all the time. So let's talk about them.
Yes, this part is important.
First, people often give answers that are too short. Someone asks, "How was your weekend?" And they say, "Good." And then silence.
Right, that's not enough. Add one detail. It was good. I went to my friend's house. Now it sounds friendly.
The next mistake is mixing tenses, saying, "I go to the park and watch the movie." You have to choose.
Stay in the past. I went to the park and watched a movie. Easy fix.
Another one, speaking without connectors. I cleaned the kitchen. I cooked dinner. I watched TV. It sounds like a robot.
Add and, then or after that. I cleaned the kitchen, then cooked dinner, and after that, watched TV. So much better.
One more common issue, too many details. You don't need your entire schedule.
Choose one or two nice moments. Like, I visited my grandparents and helped them cook. Done.
And finally, don't forget feelings. Saying "it was fun" or "it was peaceful" adds personality.
Exactly. English speakers expect a feeling word. It makes your story sound complete.
Let's listen to a few short corrections so you can hear the difference.
Wrong. It is good weekend. Right. It was a good weekend.
Wrong. I have lunch with friends yesterday. Right? I had lunch with friends yesterday.
Wrong. The weather is sunny, so I go to the beach. Right. The weather was sunny, so I went to the beach.
You can hear how much smoother that sounds. Just changing the verbs makes everything clear.
All right, let's give a few more examples so listeners can build confidence.
Sure. Imagine you're a student. You could say, "It was productive. On Saturday, I studied for my English test and reviewed vocabulary. In the evening, I watched a short movie to practice listening. On Sunday, the weather was rainy, so I stayed home and wrote in my journal. It was quiet, but nice."
Or maybe you traveled a little. It was exciting. On Saturday, I took a train to another city and visited a museum. In the evening, I ate pizza with a friend from college. On Sunday, the weather was warm, so we walked by the river and took photos. It was a great trip.
Both of those examples are realistic and easy to follow.
Before we wrap up, let's do a quick quiz to make sure everyone remembers the key points.
Good idea. Let's keep it simple. I'll ask the question and Carl will share the answer right after. Question 1. What tense do we use to talk about the weekend?
The past tense.
Question 2. What's the past form of go?
Went.
Question 3. Listen carefully. I watch a movie on Saturday. What's wrong here?
The verb should be in the past. I watched a movie on Saturday.
Nice. Question 4. How can we connect two short sentences like "I stayed home, it was raining"?
Combine them with because. I stayed home because it was raining.
And one last question. When you finish your answer, what polite question can you ask to keep the conversation going?
How about you? It shows interest and keeps things friendly.
Perfect. 5 for 5.
You know, the more you listen to yourself saying these sentences, the easier they get.
Exactly. You don't need to memorize big lists of verbs or adjectives. Just tell small stories about real life.
Start with how you felt. Describe what you did on Saturday and Sunday. Add a feeling again. And finish with a question.
That's the rhythm. Feeling, Saturday, evening, Sunday, feeling, question. Once that pattern becomes automatic, you'll never freeze again when someone asks about your weekend.
Let's go over one more example, just to end strong.
It was relaxing. On Saturday, I met a friend for lunch and we talked for hours. In the evening, I watched a comedy at home. On Sunday, the weather was cold, so I stayed in and made soup. It was cozy.
That's a great one. Clear, friendly, and easy to copy.
All right, review what we have learned today.
Today we learned how to talk about your weekend in English, keep verbs in the past, add simple details, and include a polite question at the end.
Remember, you don't need fancy words. Real English is about connection.
So this week, when someone asks, "How was your weekend?" you'll be ready.
Thanks for listening to My Bilingual Life.
Keep practicing a little every day, and we'll see you next time.